And Brad, I want to ask you, because it reminds me that family separation is something that I've been talking about, on TV quite a lot recently. We've heard a lot about a potential return to family separation. I know it's something that's tied up in the courts, so we may not be able to say exactly what's happening right at this moment, but Kind just released another report about family separation and what family separation does to children. Is family separation still happening in the United States?
Well, it obviously is, and I think both of you have just been pointing out very well the way it's happening, and it's worth remembering that families can become separated in multiple ways, but regardless of how they become separated, they need to be brought back together, and it does take the role of an immigration system and even volunteers in an organization like Kind to make that happen. We've seen the reaction of the American public when it was so graphically put before the public 2 years ago that families were arriving together and then being literally pulled apart by the immigration authorities once they were in the United States. That is obviously one form of continuing danger. But there are other ways in which families become separated as well. And regardless of how they became separated, it has been a fundamental part of Kind's mission to bring people back together if we can, and perhaps most importantly, to ensure that the children who have been separated have their rights protected. And that is more challenging today than it was a year ago, and it was more challenging a year ago than it was 3 years before that. And I think it's right, as both of you have indicated, to point out that this is not a phenomenon of the last 5 years. It has been a phenomenon of several decades in various forms. But I do think what we've learned over the last few years is it is possible to do better in protecting these children. We know from the cases where Kind lawyers and volunteers are involved that if we can bring their case forward before an immigration judge, there is a basis under domestic law, reflected in international law, for people to qualify to stay, oftentimes with asylum as a refugee, or under the law that protects children who have been victims of trafficking. So I think we need to stay focused in part on the need to keep pulling ourselves together as a volunteer community that's devoted to protecting these children. Because my gosh, if we fail to at the moment, literally you have people's lives at risk perhaps more than ever before.